We are back from that amazing music session to just unwind and get into the week with Psych, definitely. And thank you even to my mom who is watching. I told you guys she's our biggest fan and she's watching the show. Thank you so much, Mom, for always tuning in and always keeping me company here. But it's time for us to have a look at the newspapers this morning. And starting us off is the Daily Nation, and Ruto taxes create two classes of Kenyans is the headline. And I see here Caesar's dues. So since President William Ruto took office 26 months ago, he has raided the pay slips of salaried Kenyans 3 times. 4 for those who earn over 500,000 shillings, most recently in October. While the deductions have been effected on the pay of both private workers and public servants, the latter have a soft landing from VAT allowances and pay increments, which help cushion them from the full impact of the new taxes. And this is a story covered on pages 4 and also 5, and more on the same. I see here that at a glance that President Ruto first invaded the pay slips of salaried workers in February 2023, and that is when the Court of Appeal upheld the National Social Security Fund Act number 45 of 2013, raising pension contributions from 200 shillings to 1.2%, half of which is paid by the worker and the other half by the employer. So the president then hit them with a 1.5% housing levy through Finance Act 2023. So high-income earners were also slapped with a higher pay-as-you-earn tax in July 2023 through the act. So civil servants get an automatic pay rise of 3% every year, even amid the hard times. And moving on, still on the top page, I see how father's elusive death certificate has thwarted a Girls America move. That's a story on page 8. And page 7 revealed police bid to block Gachagua from Nairobi church, and this is on page 7. That's a story that we're going to look at more, even in more detail. I also see Tatu City Wars, the inside story. So Tatu City is fighting many a battle as shareholder wars, investigations by law enforcement agencies, disputed taxes, fallout to some of its own clients, exchanges with Kiambu County, and bitter parting of ways with the former CEO have all triggered court cases. I think most people know of Tatu City. These are residential houses. Kenya has initiated mutual legal assistance from Mauritius and Bermuda in the hope that the project's owners left behind breadcrumbs to be used as evidence in potential prosecutions. That's a story on pages 2 and also 3. Page 7 also, we have Will Raila succeed where Gaddafi failed in his push for United States of Africa? So that is the story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And coming down to page 4, just to look at more on the story on how Ruto's punitive taxes create two sets of Kenyans, we get to understand that 32.5% is the payee percentage of the gross pay for people who earn 500,000 shillings a month. And declining pay, we have the effects of the new levies and taxes. So some hospitals have refused to accept the new medical insurance. That's one. Number 2, we see that workers in the private sector are grappling with the declining salaries as companies struggle under the weight of high cost and poor demand. And also, as per the lender's calculations, the salary increases to teachers, civil servants, and workers in the security sector will cost the government an additional 16 billion Kenyan shillings. And that's a story, pages 4 and also 5. Page 6, give Mudavadi interior docket, Ruto told. So leaders from Prime Cabinet Secretary's region say he is well suited to replace Kithure Kindiki, who was elevated to deputy president. And also page 7 is a story asking, will Odinga succeed where Gaddafi failed? So vision echoes aspirations of the former Libyan leader who once championed a United States of Africa. That's a story on page 7. And page 8 is the story of seeking answers. So we see it has been 11 years since Walter Odonga's passing, yet efforts to obtain his vital paper have hit dead ends at every office, and this has affected Gulf's U.S. move thwarted those plans heavily. And you can look at that story more on page 8, and even to know the importance of getting these documents in line. And county news today: from crisis to crisis, fresh twist in universities standoff. So this is in Uasin Gishu. More university workers are demanding 10 billion shillings in salary arrears. In Mombasa, we have a puzzle here: herbalist or terrorist. Puzzle of Tanzanian facing terror charges. And still moving on in the international news, I see Israeli strike on house in Gaza and kills dozens. Let's keep praying for this nation. Israel is still on the fight. Among those killed is a man, his wife, children, and several family members. This is very sad. So Qatar stalls efforts until both sides show willingness and seriousness to resume talks. And of course, proceeding on to the back page, I see Ulinzi Stars Motian aims to revive Kenya's AFCON hopes. Harambee Stars are third in Group J with 4 points, 4 behind Zimbabwe. And I also see here on the back page, Shabana win at last. AFC Leopards wars continue. And moving on, I see Imperious KDF closing on in title. So Africa light heavyweight bronze medalist Okaka inspires team to victory. And more on the golf part, I see maiden victory for Rono as favorite Karanga stumbles in Golf Park Open. And page 31, football legends unite to bid farewell to Makamu. Oduor's widow described him as a loving husband who took care, very good care, of his family. And moving on to the Standard, we have the very fast top story here: broke Kenyans are being forced to steal, unfortunately. So the government report suggests the surge in crime could be linked to high levels of unemployment in the country, indicating that harsh economic conditions and the pressure to feed families are driving Kenyans to commit serious crimes. That's a story on page 2 titled "It's the Economy." And moving on, I see Chinese projects face a myriad legal security hurdles, and marketers want prices of fuel raised. This is on the business page today. And world page, Asia braces for Trump tariff shocks. And still on the top page, I see if you are in a film industry, you have a reason to smile, okay? So government has announced plans to issue tax exemptions for film industry products in the country. So CS Kipchumba Murkomen said this will elevate the sector. This is a story on page 3. I mean, I wish they would do this for more sectors. But anyway, it is great news for those in the film industry. Page 8, I see in politics, there is a thin line between friends and enemies. So from former President Uhuru Kenyatta and his then deputy William Ruto were the ultimate political force. However, the bromance turned into intense rivalry whose source is yet to be explained. That's a story on page 8. And then still on the top story, as you can see, we have the good, bad, ugly of Rutonomics. And President William Ruto's toughest assignment as he charts his third year in office is fixing the economy. He blames the sluggish growth on political intrigues. But with a new deputy president and a broad-based government, what does the future hold? This is a story on page 5. And we have 2.7% being the inflation, down from 9.2% September 2022 to 2.7% in October 2024. Fuel prices, so 6.7%, diesel down by 6.7%, petrol by 4.3%. 67% is the public debt, so that is 67% of GDP. And of course, we have the exchange rate here improved from 158 shillings to the US dollar to 127 shillings. So sugar decreased by 2.3%, maize flour 1.8%, and electricity cost 7% reduction for industrial users. And coming down to the page 2 is where we saw that unemployment is pushing Kenyans to serious crime. And on the same, I see National Council of Administrative Justice report claiming that the male prison population with prior convictions vastly outnumbers the female population, with 14,059 men compared to 2,016 women. And I also see more on the same, that data also indicates that at least 20% of men committed to prison are repeat offenders. There are more men than women with multiple convictions. And of course, we've read the statistics, 14,000 versus 2016 women. This is a story on page 2. And coming down to page 4, I see Ruto regrets bad politics of first 2 years, promises a better future. So the president indirectly referred to his impeached deputy Rigathi Gachagua. So he said the country has no time for politics of blackmail with regional kingpins. So we have pending bills here up to 30 billion shillings. The NHIF debt that President Ruto says his administration is struggling to pay following the rollover to the Social Health Authority, the SHA. And I see the president defended actually the new Social Health Authority and encouraged leaders to promote the registration for comprehensive medical services. And he's saying that for the first time in Kenya, we have an insurance scheme that caters to all Kenyans, not just a few. But the underlying issue being that he regrets bad politics of the first 2 years, and he's promising a better future. We can only wait and see what is going to happen. And page 5 talks about the bittersweet taste of Ruto's hustler-nomics. Some words they are invented. Page 10, Kisii politicians accuse Ruto's government of sidelining the region. So Mogaka accused the national government of halting an airport project. So Onyonka attributed the funding shortfall to a lack of unity among leaders. And I see here today on the opinion polls, I see taxes should state access people's mobile phones. So we have yes on one side and no on the other side. So we can look at that on page 13. And I also see on the opinion still the important role of financial institutions in climate action that has been covered. And today on the pullout, on the health and science pullout, is high HIV infections among men, Gen Z's worry medics. So experts warn of increased health risks and call for improved sex education and better access to prevention methods, particularly for young women. This is a story on pages 4 and also 5. And I think that's a story of interest here because we see that the total new HIV infections in Kenya as of 2022, we have 22,154. That's a story on page 4 and 5. So the rise of age disparate relationships known as kugongewa has sparked debate, with experts stressing the health risks, particularly for young women. Experts warn of increased HIV risks and call for improved sex education and better access to prevention methods. So we have rising cases rising, and that is among older men and also Gen Zs, which is definitely worrying. Experts. And from page 6 here, I see pregnancy embracing the awkward moments with grace. So from gas to glowing skin, 3 mothers share their humorous and heartfelt experiences of the unexpected challenges of pregnancy and how they embrace them with humor and poise. This is a beautiful story to look at. A feature today is touching on cervical cancer, which ravages women despite availability of HPV vaccine. And concluding with sports, I see Man United see off Leicester City as Ipswich Town stands Spurs. So Manchester United win to end Van Nistelrooy's interim spell as Ipswich get first EPLs in 22 years. So Forest winning run halted as Newcastle United picks second consecutive win. And I move on here, and I see page 31. Pep, after 6 titles, maybe another team deserves one. So Guardiola has lost 4 successive matches for the first time in his 17-year managerial career after the loss of Brighton. Story on page 31. Lastly, Eton Marathon. Only you can quench this thirst. So the 2024 Eton International Marathon is scheduled for November 24th. So the event has been designed to showcase the home of champions. That's a story on page 30. And just briefly to have a look at what is being reported this morning on Business Daily. We see Kenya seeks IMF to help reintroduce carbon tax. So enforcing carbon tax, part of IMF funding conditions. Attempt to introduce eco levy flopped with finance bill. And on the top page, we have Safaricom raises alarm over turning pay bills into KRA tax registers. So I see Safaricom has expressed concern over government plans to turn mobile money payables and till numbers into electronic tax registers. So warning that the move could hurt usage of its M-Pesa payment services and dent the progress made in the digitization of payments in Kenya. So the telecoms operators have served the warning amid the continued adoption of its M-Pesa platform, especially sign-ups to Pochi La Biashara, a product allowing small businesses owners to including phone vendors and matatu operators to separate business from personal funds. So definitely Safaricom is worried about this and saying that it could definitely cause damage to M-Pesa transactions and how much people even use it. So we are the largest taxpayer, so we are quite conscious about the need to pay taxes, but also for our customer base, we are also conscious that this country has made significant progress on digitization, and therefore we need to make sure even as authorities try to expand the tax base, we do not roll back some of the benefits we have seen on digitization. So look at that story more on page 2 of the Business Daily. And coming down to the last word, I have always observed that to succeed in the world, one should appear like a fool, but be wise. Okay, this is a quote from Montesquieu. Can't read that name, but he's a French judge, man of letters, historian and political philosopher. And that's it for the newspaper review, the Daily Nation, the Business Daily, and also the Standard. You can grab a copy of your favorite, but remember, on Hope FM, we have news updates at the top of every hour, so we can update you on what is happening, even as it continues to happen in the country. Jioni pia hapa tutakuwa na Dira at 7 p.m. and of course at 9 p.m. for the News Watch. So you can keep in touch, keep it hope, and you'll be able to be updated on all that is happening in our nation and also beyond. This helps us to know how we can pray, but most importantly to also be informed about what is happening and know the direction to take our prayers. So right about now, it's time for us to now wait on the video of the day to have a look at it and then come back, talk about it, even as we are gearing up towards today's conversation, which is on financial literacy for teenagers.